Okay, we'll start. So we'll start the second module. First module already completed. You need to design some of the shallow foundations here. There are different types of shallow foundation you will come across, and those to be designed in this module. But the design for the shallow foundation, the basic is the bearing capacity equation, whatever we have discussed in the previous module, and that is to be carried forward, that knowledge to be carried forward here. What is the different that is bearing capacity equation, ultimate bearing capacity, net bearing capacity, those all things to be carry forward. And the very basic things here we need to discuss. So first, in this module we are going to discuss about the classification of foundation, how the foundations are being classified. And then comes the classification of footings. What are the different types of footings, that is of shallow foundation? Then what are the objectives for the shallow foundation, for the design principles of the shallow foundations, importance and the field suitability of each. So needs to be defined how these different types of footings can be to be suitable for the field. Then the design of a single column footing with and without eccentricity. Then the design of combined footing using IS 456-2000. Okay, only this much they are mentioned in your syllabus, but it has a vast. We need to not only the single column footing, we need to take a different kinds of footings and we need to design. But it is a shallow foundation with and without eccentricity. And also the design of combined footing. We need to design the combined footing. So these are the contents of this shallow foundations. So let us begin with the foundation definitions. So already I defined in a bearing capacity chapter what we mean by foundation, what are the contents of the foundation. As you all know, the above the ground, whatever the structure comes, it is called as a superstructure, and below the ground it is called as a substructure or the foundation. Then for foundation there will be a foundation soil, and these all things will become. And a structure essentially consists of two parts, as you all know, namely the superstructure, which is above the plinth level, and substructure, which is below the plinth level. Then the substructure definition or the foundation definition, it is a part of a structure that is usually placed below the surface of the ground to transmit the load from the superstructure to the underlying soil or a rock, what we call as a substructure or the foundation. So generally, if you see the cost wise, generally about 30% of the total construction cost is spent in the foundation. Okay, so that is the important part. So the entire load to be transferred through the foundation, that is to be strong. Okay, then so coming to the definition of footings, I hope my voice is audible to you all, and also slide is visible to you all.
Yes sir.
Yes sir.
Yes sir.
If not, please let me know. Okay, right, the definition for the footings. So footings are those parts of the foundation so which resting directly on the soil. This is a footing, what we call, this is a footing, okay, which rests directly on the soil, which supports a specific portion of the building and distributing the building loads directly to the soil. The function of footing is that only, whatever the load comes from the column. So as you know, the load transformation, that is from the slab to the beam to the column to the footing to the soil. Okay, but the footings are provided just to distribute the load in wider area, hence to reduce the bearing means to reduce the pressure below the footing, so it can be distributed widely over the area. Okay, that is a function of footing. Okay, so here a specific portion of building and distributed building loads directly to the soil. The most efficient footing and foundation system is that, when you call it as a most efficient footing or the foundation system, is that which transmits building loads mostly to the soil without exceeding the bearing capacity of the soil. Okay, so before transferring the load from the column to the footing, first you need to understand what is the bearing capacity of the soil. So whatever the bearing capacity of the soil you calculate, that should not exceed the load coming from the column to the footing. You have to take care of that one. Okay. Then, so you know how the load get transfers here. This is the column load. This is the column. So, and this is the footing. So this one is a footing. Through the footing, the load is being transferring on a wider area like this. It is transferring here. So all soil compress noticeably first when loaded and cause the supported structure to settle. If soil of sufficient bearing capacity lies immediately below the structure, then the load can be spread by footings as shown in the below. So like this, the load get transfers. Okay, this is the function of footing, to transfer the load on wider area or to distribute the load uniformly on the soil. Then, coming to the again foundation. So a foundation is an integral part of a structure. The stability of a structure depends upon the stability of the supporting soil. Okay, the supporting soil should be strong enough to take the load. Then only we can say there is a stable structure. So the stability of a structure depends upon the stability of the supporting soil. So two important things or the factors needs to be considered. Okay, so before designing the foundation. So what are those two factors needs to be considered? The foundation must be stable against a shear failure of the supporting soil. You all know how the shear failure takes place for the shallow foundation. There are three types of shear failures. They are the general shear failure, local shear failure, and punching shear failure. Okay, so that whatever the foundation or the footing you design, that should not be fail by shear. Okay, so that is, the foundation must be stable against a shear failure of the supporting soil. Then the second criteria is the foundation must not settle beyond the tolerable limit. There is a limit to settle. It should not cross that limit to avoid damage to the structure. That is to be taken care. And according to the codal provision, whatever the design steps to be followed, that is to be followed. And you have to look at the foundation must not settle beyond a tolerable limit to avoid damage to the structure. These are the two criteria need to be taken care. These two important factors that is, the foundation must be stable against a shear failure of the supporting soil, and also a foundation must not settle beyond a tolerable limit to avoid damage to the structure. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, coming to the requirement for the foundation, and these points I already discussed in the bearing capacity chapter. Once again, look at, since we are studying the shallow foundations, so again the requirements of foundations will be same. So here the loads must be carried by a foundation. So the foundation will carry the loads, foundation system would include the dead loads of the building and also the live loads of the occupants and contents. Okay, then means for designing you need to consider the dead load, also live load, and also you can consider the wind load, the earthquake load, and the ice loads, soil pressure. All those things needs to be considered for the design of the foundation. And the second one is the foundation system must register lateral loads from both ground pressure and wind and provide anchorage for the building. Okay, so you need to be considered this soil pressure also, and also the wind load needs to be considered, and provide a suitable anchorage for the building a superstructure against the uplift and as well as a raking force. And third one is the most critical factor in determining the foundation system of a building is that the type and bearing capacity of the soil, means where you are actually going to construct a foundation, and that particular site soil needs to be checked. It is to be tested in the laboratory and needs to be calculated the bearing capacity of the soil to which the building loads are distributed, on which the building loads are to be distributed. There are different types of soil will come across. You need to check that soil, and you have to calculate the bearing capacity of the soil, and you need to ensure that adequate safety for the structure. That is very, very important. And as I discussed, there should be a small settlement. That is also one requirement for the foundation. The settlement should be very, very minimum. That is a total as well as the differential settlement. Together, the settlements to be very minimum. That needs to be checked. Then the construction problem. There are so many construction problems you may come across. You need to overcome those construction problems. That is also one requirement for the foundation. That is the stability of excavation, bottom heave, groundwater problem. These all will come across during the construction of the foundation. So you need to overcome these problems. Then again, the cost, that is a budget, economical requirements. That is also one requirement for the foundations. Okay. So is it clear? These are some requirements for the foundation.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
and
sir.
many times the question will be asked, what are the requirements for the foundation? 6 to 8 marks. Just you mention these points. Okay. So for how many marks it is been asked, you look at the marks and according to that you answer it. Okay. Right. The same question can be asked for 10 or 15 marks. You may elaborate the points. Okay. If it is asked for 6-7 marks, you write just the point wise 7 points. That is enough. Then coming to the types of foundations, that is, there are two main types of foundation, as you know. They are the shallow foundations and the deep foundations. Okay. Again, in the shallow foundations, the spread foundation, the spread footing, combined footing, and mat foundations. And the deep foundations, again, there is a separate module for the deep foundations. But these are the two types of foundations we generally come across: shallow foundations and deep foundations. That is, a deep foundation is a pile foundation and pier foundations. Okay, again I will discuss in detail about the deep foundation in the next module, but in this module we are going to discuss about the shallow foundations. So now we'll discuss about the shallow foundations. That is the basic things what we have discussed. That is the types as well as the requirement for the foundation and how the load get distributed over the area that we have discussed so far. Then coming to the shallow foundation, the definition of shallow foundation, as you all know, it is very simple. When according to the Terzaghi, when he defines the shallow foundation, when the depth of foundation is equal to or less than the width of the foundation, then it is termed as shallow foundation. It is also known as open foundation. According to Terzaghi, a shallow foundation, that is same definition, a shallow foundation is one whose width is greater than its depth. Whose width is greater than depth, or the depth of foundation is equal to or less than the width of the foundation. It is termed as a shallow foundation. It is also known as open foundation. Okay. So here how we can write like this. We can write D by depth to width ratio. If you take D by B ratio, depth of footing, it should be less than or equal to 1. Okay. So if this is the criteria it's satisfying, then that foundation we call as a shallow foundation. This is depth of footing, DF. Okay. If depth of foundation is equal to or less than the width of the foundation, then that footing or the foundation is called as shallow foundation. It is also called as open foundation. And shallow foundation is placed immediately below the lowest part of the superstructure. And next, a footing is a foundation unit. Footing is also a part of foundation unit constructed in a brickwork or stone masonry or concrete below the base of the wall or column for the purpose of what? Distributing the structural loads over a wide area. That is a function of the footing. I'll repeat. A footing is a foundation unit constructed in a brickwork, stone masonry or concrete below the base of the wall or the column for the purpose of distributing the structural load over the wide area. Remember, the footing is the function of the footing is what? To distribute the load, that is a structural load over a wider area. That is a function of the footing. So look at this picture here. You can see here. So here the depth, this is the depth of the footing from the ground level. You can say this is the depth and this is the width. Okay. When depth of the footing is less than or equal to 1, or you can say the depth of the footing when it is less than or equal to width of the footing, then it is called as a shallow foundation. If it is exceeding, that is width, then it is called as a deep foundation. Generally more than 3 meters we classify as a deep foundation. This is the wall or the column which is resting over the footing, and this footing distributes the load uniformly over the area. Okay, it spreads over the larger area. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I hope you all understanding what I am explaining.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. Then coming to next, the types of shallow foundations. So this is very important. These all we are going to design. So this is a spread footing. Then we'll discuss about what we mean by spread footing. Again, what are the different types of spread footing you come across? Combined footing, strap footing, mat foundation, or the raft foundation. Again, there is a separate module for the raft and the mat foundation. And this is also a shallow foundation. One of the shallow foundation, this is mat or raft. Okay. So coming to the first one is a spread footing. So what do you mean by the spread footing? A spread footings are those which spread the superimposed load of a wall or a column over a larger area. Okay, the spread footing supports either a column or a wall. Means it may support a column or a wall. A spread footing, or it is sometimes also called as an isolated footing, or it is sometimes also called as a pad footing, which is provided to support an individual column. And also a spread footing, it could be a circular, square, or a rectangular slab of uniform thickness. Sometimes it is a stepped or a haunched to the spread the load over a larger area. And here the spread footings may be of the following kinds. Here there are different types of spread footings you may come across. The single footing for the column, single footing for the column, single column, and also sometimes stepped footing for the column. That is also called as a spread footing only, or isolated footing, or it is called as a pad footing. Sloped footing or the trapezoidal footing we call for a column. And sometimes the footing which supports the wall also, that is wall footing without a step, and stepped footing for the wall and grillage foundation. These all come under the spread footing. Is it clear? The different types of spread footing? Right. Just look at the first one, single footing for the column. Here I have taken the spread footing first. Under the spread footing, these are the some types of the spread footings. So that is a single column. Here, single column footing for a column means there is a single column over a single footing. This is simple column footing like this. Okay, it is also called as a pad footing also. A spread footing for a single column is either known as a isolated or a pad footing. Remember. In this case, the footing may consist of simple concrete block like this, simple concrete block projecting out from the column face on all the sides. Just look at here, it is projecting from column face, all the sides. Okay, so this is called as a pad, or it is called as a isolated footing. Okay, the base dimensions of the concrete base, should not be less than twice the appropriate lateral dimensions of the column in that direction. Means this base dimensions for the footing, they should not be less than the dimensions of the column. Okay, the thickness of concrete block should at least be equal to side offset from the column face. Means whatever the thickness you are providing here, it should be at least whatever the offset is providing here, that much thickness needs to be provided. Is it clear for the single footing for a column?
Yes, sir.
So these are the sometimes they may ask in a theory part, just give the detailed classification of foundation. That time you need to explain these all things. Okay. Coming to the stepped footing for the column, this is also spread footing only. Just under the column, the steps are provided like this. Okay. So why these steps are required here? See, look at this one. This is a column. Under the column, there is a pedestal. Then pedestal under the step. Under the pedestal, there are some steps are provided here. Why these steps are required here? Suppose if the column load is more, or if the safe bearing pressure of the soil is less, the base area will be large. Means if the low bearing capacity soil is present, you need to distribute the soil, the load on the wider area. In that case, you need to provide steps. So in such a case, it is necessary to provide a masonry offsets to achieve a larger spread before the load is transferred to the concrete base. Okay. Then the height and the width of each should be so proportioned that the rate of spread does not exceed the permissible value for the masonry. Okay. If you are providing a masonry, whatever the permissible value of masonry is there, that is a permissible capacity of the masonry, that should not be exceeded. Likewise, you need to transfer the loads stage wise. Okay. So this is about a stepped footing for the column. Coming to the sloped footing, you might have seen this type of a footings on a site. So, okay. So this is called as a sloped footing. Again, this is a column. Then the pedestal, under the pedestal, the footing is made sloped, and this is also sometimes called as a trapezoidal footing. So these are also known as isolated or individual column footings. They have a projection in the concrete base. Due to the low bending strength, the footing constructed with a brick, stone, or a plain concrete required considerable depth to be safe to carry the heavy loads. So to carry the heavy loads, these types of footings needs to be provided, and it is more safe than the previous. So it will distribute slowly the load over the larger area. The depth of plain concrete footing can be reduced. Means the concrete quantity can be reduced here by providing like this. Means the load will be transferring like this. So unnecessarily, if you provide a square footing, the quantity will be more. So that can be reduced by providing such kind of a footings. The depth of plain concrete footing can be reduced much by providing a reinforcement at its base to take up the tensile stresses. Then the RCC column footing may be circular. Means this column footing may be circular, rectangular, or square in plane. Is it clear? Sloped footing.
Yes, sir.
This is one more type of a spread footing. Then coming to the one more type for in the spread footing is a wall footing without a step. Means a wall is sometimes a wall is constructed under the footing like this. It is also called as a strip footing. Okay. So it is also called as a strip footing, which provides a continuous longitudinal bearing. Means it is continuous throughout the length. Thus a spread footing for a continuous wall is called as a strip footing. So this is called as a strip footing. Means continuous footing over which the wall has been constructed sometimes. This is a wall footing without a step. This is a plan of the this footing. Whatever the figure here drawn, it is a plan for this one. Here we have got a wall and the other side offsets. These are the footing offsets. When the wall carries a light loads and safe bearing pressure is very high, width of footing may be very small. In such a case, the wall directly rests on the concrete base and no masonry offsets are provided. Okay. So this is about the wall footing without step. Then same wall footing with step. So here the wall is constructed, but the stepwise. Here offsets are given like this, and then the footing. So when the wall carries a heavy loads and the safe bearing pressure of the soil is not very high, means if the safe bearing capacity under the footing is not much strong, or it is a low bearing capacity of the soil is present, then the base width required may be much greater. So in such a case, the masonry offsets are provided to achieve a larger spread before the load is transferred to the concrete base. Then in case of a typical wall footings, the lowest course of bricks will have a twice the width of the wall above the plinth level. Okay, means whatever the wall you are constructing, the width should be twice of that one. Then the base width of the wall is achieved by providing 5 centimeter offset, means the 5 centimeter of offset on both sides of the wall. The depth of each course may be 10 to 20 centimeters. Whatever the depth you are providing is 10 to 20 centimeters. The offset will be 5 centimeters. Again, after constructing first here, then again offset will be 5 centimeter, 5 centimeter, 5 centimeter, like this. Okay, is it clear? The stepped footing with wall for a wall. This is also spread footing. Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Next, coming to the grillage foundation. So this type of foundation you might have seen. This is a grill called grillage foundation. One, it is provided. A grillage foundation is an isolated footing. This is also an isolated footing, but it comes under a spread footing only. Spread means it distributes the load on a area, wider area, stage wise. A grillage foundation is an isolated footing generally provided when a heavy structural loads from the columns, piers, steel stanchions, means the heavy columns, what we call as steel stanchions, are required to be transferred to a soil having a poor or the low bearing capacity. It can be broadly divided into two categories depending upon the material used. So depending upon the material used, the grillage foundations can be divided into two types. And remember, the grillage foundations are provided when a heavy structural loads to be transferred through the columns and then to the footings. In that case, a grillage foundation needs to be provided. So when the load to be distributed on a wider area, so depending upon the material, the grillage foundations are of two types: steel grillage foundations and timber grillage foundations. So this is the picture of the grillage foundation, steel grillage foundation, how the steel stanchions. So these are the I sections provided here. Then the column concrete pad. Over the concrete pad, the I section, the steel sections are to be provided the stage wise. Then the column provided. So through the column, the load is being transferring here. Then it is transferring on this grill. Then again this grill. Then it transferred to the footing. Okay, a heavy structural load is coming. So this type of footing will be provided even in bridges and all. Wherever the load coming on the footing is very high, so that time this type of that is a grillage type of foundation you will be using. So depending upon the material, this is a steel grillage and this is a timber grillage. So is it clear? This is also one type of a spread footing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then coming to the combined footing. So this is whatever the classification we have made, this is under spread footing. Under this spread footing, these classifications, how many classifications? Single footing for a column, stepped footing for a column, sloped footing, wall footing, stepped footing. These all are isolated footing only. So, but these all comes under spread footing. Then coming to the next one is combined footing. When we need to provide a combined footing. Okay. A combined footing is a single footing which supports two columns. That is what we call as a combined footing. Single footing, over a single footing, two columns are present. So it is provided under the following circumstances when it is provided. When, so very important this one, when the columns are very near to each other so that their footings are getting overlapping each other. So that time you can provide one single footing and provide the two column. That is called the combined footing. Okay. And also when the bearing capacity of the soil, if you after testing, when the bearing capacity of the soil is very less or very low, requiring more area under individual footing, means whenever you are getting a low bearing capacity soil, you need to distribute the load over the larger area. So where a single footing requires a larger area, in that case you can combine two columns and for a single footing and distribute the load over the larger area. In that situation, a combined footing needs to be provided. And also third criteria, third circumstances is when the end column is very near to the property line, so that its footing cannot spread in that direction. Means adjacent property, if it is crossing the footing in adjacent property, then you can avoid by providing the combined footing. Is it clear when the combined footing needs to be provided?
Yes, sir.
All 3 points understood, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is very important here. So sometimes define combined footing and give in which situation the combined footing needs to be provided. That time you can write these things. When the two columns are very near to each other, that time we can provide the combined footing. Or when the bearing capacity of the soil is very, very low, requiring more area to distribute the load, that time the combined footing needs to be provided for the column. Or when the end of the column is very near to the adjacent property line, in that case you need to provide the combined footing. Okay, again, if in a combined footing there are different types of a combined footing, as I defined, as it is nothing but again a spread footing, but which supports 2 or more columns is termed as a combined footing. The combined footing may be of following types. It may be a rectangular combined footing, so means the columns are rectangular, or then so the base is a rectangular combined footing. When the rectangular combined footing needs to be provided here is the combined footing will be provided in a rectangular shape if columns carry equal loads. If the load coming on the columns are equal, both the columns are carrying equal loads, then the design of rectangular combined footing should be done in such a way that the center of gravity of the column coincides with the center of the footing area. So when the center of the gravity of the column, that is column loads, which is coinciding with the centroid of the footing area, that time you can go with can provide with rectangular combined footing. And one more type is a trapezoidal combined footing. If the columns carrying unequal loads, the footing is of trapezoidal shape provided. Okay, so if column A and column B are carrying unequal loads, then that time you go provide trapezoidal combined footing. Sometimes it is combined with column wall footing. Column is also present, wall is also present. It may be required to provide a combined footing for a column and as well as a wall. So look at these pictures here. Whenever the load coming on this column and this column, say column A and column B, both are carrying the equal loads. Say this is also 400 kilonewton and here also 400 kilonewton. If the load carrying by these two columns are equal, also when you take the centroid of these two, when you take the resultant of these two, the resultant will be acting here. Is it clear? Is it the CZ?
Yes, sir.
So when I'm taking a CZ of this combined load and also the CZ of the footing, both are coinciding at one point, then that time you can provide the rectangular combined footing. Okay, if column, in this case, if column A and these are the column B, and say the column A is carrying 500 kilonewton, column B is carrying 700 kilonewton. So where the load is unequal, and also sometimes on this side the load coming on the column is very heavy. Also the CZ of the combined load and the CZ of the footing is not coinciding, then we can call it the eccentricity will be coming here. In that case you may provide trapezoidal type of combined footing. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
And if you understand these things, then the next whenever we design the rectangular type of a combined footing or the trapezoidal type of a combined footing, there should be a proportionate, we need to proportionate the footing. That time these concept will coming into picture. And sometimes a combined footing is that is provided with the wall also. There is a combined wall as well as a column. See, the column is also present and wall is also present. Here this footing is provided for the wall and this footing is provided for the column. Both are combined together, and this is called as a combined wall and column footing. This is also called as a combined footing. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So look at the next type is a strap footing. So have you seen this type of footing anywhere? Have you visited the site anywhere? Have you seen this type of?
Did not see.
So
No, sir.
at least you look at here picture. So these are the two footings, isolated footings, and these are tied together by providing a beam. This is called a strap beam. See the central beam just to provide the anchorage to the columns. Okay, this is called a strap type of footing. So it is an independent footing of two columns are connected by a beam. This is connected by a beam. It is called as a strap footing. Okay, when it is provided a strap footing may be used where the distance between the column is so great that a trapezoidal footing becomes quite narrow, where you cannot provide a trapezoidal footing. Even though if you want to provide a trapezoidal footing for this one as a combined footing, it will become very narrow for this one. In that case, just you provide a strap beam and connect these two. Okay, so that type of footing we call as a strap type of a footing. And the strap does not remain in contact with the soil, means it is not in contact with the soil, just it is connected these two footings only, and does not transfer any of the pressure of the soil. Okay, just it is a anchorage between the footing A or footing B. It acts as a anchorage, that is strap type of a footing. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
This is strap footing. Again, this is also we are going to design next, proportionate. Okay, understand here, strap footing. This is a beam, and beam to be designed later, and also column. From the column the load is transferring to here, and this will prevent from tilting from other side. Okay, this acts as an anchorage for these two columns. That is called as strap footing. Then coming to the next is a raft foundation. A raft foundation is a combined footing. This is also combined footing only, and that covers the entire area beneath the structure and support the wall and a column. They are used in areas where the soil masses contain compressible lenses, or the soil is sufficiently erratic in nature so that there is a differential settlement would be difficult to control. Okay, so there is a lot of differential settlement, and also the soil is erratic in nature. In that case, a raft foundation needs to be provided. A raft foundation may be divided into three types based on the design and construction. They are the solid slab system, beam slab system, cellular system. All the three types are basically the same, consisting of a large, generally unbroken area of slab covering the whole or the large part of the structure. The raft means on one single footing there are n number of columns to be provided, or the wall to be constructed like this, where the bearing capacity of soil is very, very low. And also here, as I mentioned, when the soil is sufficiently erratic in nature and where you are getting more differential settlement. So in that case, where the differential settlement is not under control, then you can go with the mat foundation like this. You can provide like this. Okay, this is called as a mat foundations. And again, there are different types here: flat slab type raft foundation, slab beam type of raft foundations. Okay, there is a separate module for this one, raft foundation or the mat foundation. Again, the design things, but this is also comes under the shallow foundation only. This is one of the type of the shallow foundation. And here plate thickened under the columns. Okay, here these are the just plan and elevation. So is it clear, the mat foundation? This is the mat foundation. Then these are the types of footings combined, isolated in one slide I have shown. So these are the footings as already explained. Combined footing. Again, the raft footing, strip footing in both direction may be sufficient to spread the load and reduce the soil pressure to acceptable levels. If not, a raft foundation may be given a suitable bearing pressure. This also explained. And coming to the pressure distribution under the footing, so actual pressure is not a uniform. If you just look at the pressure underneath the footing, actually it is not a uniform, but the design purpose we take it as a uniform pressure. So what is the reason for not being a uniform pressure is the footing flexibility and depth of footing below the ground surface, and the type of soil present below the footing. So these are the factors which are not providing a pressure uniform under the footing. And here, this is the column and the footing here. This is the soil. There is a pressure distribution provided here. It will be like this. Actually, pressure distribution will be like this. So for a concentrically loaded pad footing, the bearing pressure distribution for a cohesive type of a soil is the pressure are higher near the edge because the load produces a shear resistance around the perimeter, which adds to the upward pressure. So this is a soil pressure distribution for the cohesive type of a soil. If you take a cohesionless soil type, so it will be distribution will be like this. If you plot a soil pressure distribution, it will be like this. For a cohesionless soil, the pressures are higher at the center because the individual grains of the soil at the perimeter can shift very slightly outwards to where the soil stresses are less. So remember, this is the soil pressure distribution underneath the cohesionless soil. It is high at the center and low at the towards the edge. And for the design purpose, provided the load is symmetrical with respect to the bearing area, it is usual to disregard these variations and assume an uniform bearing pressure. So for the design purpose, we assume for concentric load, the soil pressure distribution underneath the footing will be uniform like this. And Q is the bearing pressure, and axially loaded footings. Axially loaded means the column load as well as the footing load are coinciding with each other. That is, CG will be same for the column load as well as the footing. That is, they are called as axially loaded footings, which assumes that uniform pressure distribution. And also the footing to be designed for the stability. Okay, the foundation and the retaining wall must be designed to resist both overturning as well as the sliding. And overturning, to prevent overturning, the restoring moment due to the vertical load must be greater than the overturning moments. While designing and all these things to be considered, overturning effect as well as the sliding effects. So these all to be taken into account and design the footings. So here, just look sliding. So the sliding, to prevent the footing from the sliding, resisting the footing on the soil must exceed the applied horizontal load. It means whatever the load is acting here. So to prevent, if you are applying the load in this direction, the footing should not move in this direction. These should resist. Okay. If there is a lateral pressure is acting from this side, it should not move forward this side. There should be a resistance. Okay. So the equation here, whatever it is given, look at this one, where Fr is a friction resistance. There should be a much friction resistance under the base to prevent the sliding. Okay. And delta is the friction angle between the concrete and the soil, and EP is the passive resistance due to the horizontal movement, and EA is the active resistance due to horizontal movement. So these all things needs to be considered while designing the footings. And bearing capacity of soil, as already I discussed in the previous module, and that is the bearing capacity of the soil. So it is defined as a maximum load per unit area which the soil will resist safely without the displacement, what we call as the bearing capacity of the soil. And the bearing capacity of the soil can be found by loading the soil, noting the settlement, and dividing the maximum load by the area on which the load is applied. So this is what we call the load per unit area, what we call as the bearing capacity of the soil. About the bearing capacity of the soil, I discussed in the previous module in detail about the bearing capacity, and also this is what we have discussed in the previous module. Is it clear? I discussed the same slide I have put here, right? The bearing capacity of the soil I discussed previously, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just I given again what is the definition of footing, foundation, soil, bearing capacity, those things, bearing capacity and all, how it can be defined and all. And I discussed the gross and net soil pressures also. The same will come in shallow foundations also. So these all things I have discussed previously. Just I'll go through the slides. This is the things, the net soil pressure, and also we have discussed where to use a gross and net soil pressure. I discussed ultimate bearing capacity, we have discussed previously, and what is the equation to be used for the ultimate bearing capacity and all. These all things we have discussed. The bearing capacity, and this one is a very important artificial method of improving the soil bearing capacity by increasing the depth of foundation, by draining the subsoil water, by compacting the soil, confining the soil mass, cement grouting, by injecting the chemicals like silicates and etc. You can improve the bearing capacity of the soil. These are the artificial methods. Okay, so you can take as your project for MTech projects also, how artificially the bearing capacity of the soil can be increased, and you can do the tests, and you can take it as a project work also, your project also, how the artificially the soil capacity, soil bearing capacity can be increased. You can take it as a project work also. Okay, these things we have discussed. Again, the bearing capacity of the shallow foundations I have discussed, the definition of shallow foundation I discussed, and the different types of footings I have discussed. The mat foundation design criteria, adequate depth, limiting the settlement. So factors of safety against the shear failures, how if you not taken care about the that is a shear criteria, how the building may fail in shear. This is the picture. And also we have discussed the modes of shear failures. The same will come in the shallow foundations also. General shear failure, local shear failure, punching shear failure. To avoid these things, these failures, the foundation should be designed safely. Okay, adequate safety to be provided. So right, these things I discussed previously, right? No need to explain once again, right? In detail I have explained previously. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just I am showing the slides again. The three modes of failure: general shear failure, local shear failure, how it fails, and all, punching shear failure. So again, the important definitions I discussed, the same will carry forward in the shallow foundations also. These all you remember for the design of foundation next. So these are the things I have discussed previously. Okay, so right. So Terzaghi's bearing capacity means assumptions what he has made for the design, for the derivation. So these are the assumptions. This is the Terzaghi's equations. So the shallow foundations also the same equation. Okay, these are things. Okay, bearing capacity and all we have discussed previously. I hope you understood the today's lecture, that is the introduction about the shallow foundation, right?
Yes, sir.
So in next class I'll be taking how the depth of footing to be taken, depth of footings to be taken for the shallow foundations, and also what are the foundation loads, that is dead load, live load, wind load, snow load, earth pressure, water pressure. These all things to be discussed in next class, and also the principle of design of footings. Then comes the proportioning footings. That is very important for you, and that is there for your syllabus. So with this we'll wind up the today's session here. If you have any doubt you can ask. So we'll wind up the today's session here. Okay, any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Right. So you can give your attendance and leave the meeting.